There is a force within you that has not yet been commanded, a power as ancient as your first breath, as potent as your final decision, but it does not arrive by accident. It must be summoned, forged, and directed. Most men will never know it. They will kneel before comfort and call it peace. They will bow to their emotions and call it passion. They will wait for motivation like beggars, hoping for spare change, and when none arrives, they will retreat, defeated, whispering the lie that it was never meant for them. But I tell you this, if you can learn to master your emotions, if you can train your mind to stand when your body would rather fall, and if you can detach your will from the fleeting noise of doubt and distraction, then there is nothing on this earth that can keep you from the summit of your success. You must force yourself to keep going, not because it is easy, not because it is pleasant, but because it is necessary. All great things are built upon this truth. Success is not gifted. It is claimed through the conquest of one's own inner chaos. Those who rule the world are first the rulers of themselves. The average man is governed by reaction. He walks the world like a leaf in the wind, blown here, tossed there, dictated by moods, approval, and opinion. He rises when the world applauds and crumbles when it is silent. But the superior man, the self-directed man, lives by an entirely different law. He acts, he initiates, he commands. His power comes not from force, but from inner authority, and that authority begins the moment he divorces himself from emotional dependency. You will never rise above the world until you rise above yourself. To begin this climb, you must first understand the enemy, your own undisciplined emotions. They are not evil, they are wild. Like untamed horses, they will drag you into the canyon if you do not learn to hold the reins. And every time you indulge a fleeting mood over a long-term mission, you hand over your power like a coin tossed into the abyss. Let me be clear. Your emotions are not to be trusted when discipline is required. The man who succeeds does not wait to feel ready. He feels resistance and moves anyway. He feels fear and advances regardless. He feels doubt but acts with clarity because he has trained himself to trust logic over impulse, vision over mood. The man who waits for motivation is the slave of the moment. The man who obeys discipline is the master of destiny. What is emotional detachment? It is not indifference. It is the highest form of control. It is the refusal to let temporary pain dictate permanent decisions. It is the refusal to allow someone else's chaos to disturb your clarity. It is the habit of standing still like an oak while the storm rages and others run. When you are emotionally detached, you become a fortress. Insults pass through you. Rejection becomes fuel. Failure becomes feedback. You stop bleeding from paper cuts. You stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop expecting the world to hand you your purpose wrapped in silk. You become the one who decides what matters. You become the one who responds, not reacts. You become a man of cause, not effect. Understand this law. If you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. And true thought, is not the babble of the anxious mind. It is not noise. It is direction. It is the internal decree that says, I will go forward even when I do not feel like it. Every time you override the pull of comfort and choose the discomfort of growth, you reinforce the identity of a disciplined mind. Discipline is not suffering, it is sovereignty. Discipline is freedom in disguise. The world will never reward you for your feelings. It rewards what you build, what you create, what you contribute. And to create consistently day in and day out, regardless of mood, weather, praise, or silence, you must forge the greatest alliance known to man, your will, your thought, and your purpose united. This unity begins with one thing, definiteness. You cannot build power on vague desires. You cannot dominate your life with weak intentions. You must know, in no uncertain terms, what you are here to do, and that knowledge must burn in you like a flame that refuses to die, even in the darkest night. Definiteness of purpose is the starting point of all achievement. It is the great anchor in the storm. When emotions scream confusion, purpose restores order. When doubt clouds the mind, purpose brings light. Say to yourself, I know what I want. I know who I must become to have it. And I will walk the path regardless of how I feel today. Every day you walk in alignment with that statement. You train the mind to submit to the mission. There will be days when everything in you cries out to stop. Your mind will conjure excuses. It will tell you the path is too steep, the reward too far, the pain too great. But you must understand this is not your truth. This is the dying breath of your weakness, and the only way to silence it forever is to outlive it. You must keep going, not once, not twice, but until going becomes your nature, until persistence becomes your instinct, until success is no longer something you pursue, but something you radiate. This is the power of repetition. Each time you override an emotion and act in alignment with discipline, you etch a new identity into your mind, a mind not built on desire, but on command. You are not here to be swayed, you are here to shape. Now, take a breath. Feel the silence inside you. That silence is your strength. That silence is your weapon. In that silence, you are free from the noise of the world. And in that freedom, you become the author of your fate. And the next time fear whispers its lies, that you are too late, too broken, too tired, too far gone, you will not respond with anxiety. You will respond with action. You will force yourself to keep going. And in that act, you will remember the truth. The man who masters himself cannot be mastered by anything. There is a law, ancient, invisible, but undeniable, called the law of mental neutrality. It does not shout like emotion. It does not beg like fear. It does not whimper like doubt. It simply is. It is the great balancing scale of the inner world, and those who understand it rise above every storm of human weakness. Mental neutrality is not apathy. It is not the absence of care. It is the presence of power. It is the capacity to remain centered when the world tries to pull you off course. It is the ability to observe a situation fully, clearly, objectively, without collapsing into the turbulence of your own bias, your own anxiety, your own compulsive need to respond. When you stand in mental neutrality, you see things as they are, not as your wounds would have you see them, not as your ego wishes they would be, not as the crowd insists they must be, but as they truly are. This is the source of wise decisions. This is where calmness becomes lethal. The man who reacts to everything is a man controlled by everything. But the man who observes, who waits, who discerns, he is the one who leads. For he who can pause in the midst of chaos controls the outcome of chaos. There is no victory for the man who is always swayed. There is no success for the man who is easily offended, constantly distracted, endlessly triggered. These are symptoms of inner slavery. And every time you let someone else's words dictate your peace, you hand them the key to your inner kingdom. But the mind that has trained itself in the art of neutrality, that is the mind of a builder, a warrior, a thinker, a creator. It does not jump, it does not chase, it does not shrink. It watches, it calculates, it responds with intention. Mental neutrality means this. You no longer take things personally because you have something greater to protect your mission. It means this. You do not burn energy on what you cannot control because that energy is sacred and it belongs to your purpose. It means this. You do not attach to praise and you do not collapse under criticism because your value is determined by your principle, not by their perception. And if you can learn to live in this state, to neither swing toward elation when things go well, nor plunge into despair when they do not, you will become something rare. You will become stable in a world addicted to instability. The world will ask you to react. Every day, it will throw opinions at you like knives. It will feed you headlines designed to hijack your focus. It will bait you with distractions, arguments, and noise. And you must train yourself to not respond to everything that calls your name. You must choose what deserves your energy, because your energy, your focused mental presence, is the most valuable currency you have. Spend it with care. Spend it with intention. Spend it only where it compounds into greatness. And how do you achieve this neutrality? Through practice, through discipline of attention. Every time you notice yourself pulled by emotion and you choose stillness instead, you are rewiring your destiny. Every time you feel the heat of reaction and opt for the calmness of reflection, you grow stronger. Every moment you observe your mind without identifying with it, you are freeing yourself. This is the great secret of emotional detachment. It is not a disconnection from life, it is a deeper connection to purpose. You must learn to be in the world, but not owned by it. to walk through temptation but not be consumed, to hold power but not be swayed, to hear insult but not internalize it. This is the stoic clarity of the great men, those who do not merely live, but live with mastery. There is no success without detachment from comfort. There is no legacy without detachment from approval. There is no peace without detachment from reaction. Detachment is not weakness, it is self-possession. And the more you own yourself, the less you need to own anything else. Now listen closely, because this is a truth most men never learn. When you no longer react to everything, you gain the time to build anything. What does this mean? It means your mind is no longer scattered. It means you no longer wake up drained by invisible wars that you never needed to fight. It means your energy is no longer bleeding into petty conflicts and imaginary futures. It means you now have the bandwidth to build the life you were meant to build. Do you not see? Most people are not tired from doing too much. They are tired from thinking too chaotically. It is not the labor that breaks them. It is the inner war of reacting to every whisper of the world. Silence that war. Reclaim your power. Stand in neutrality, and from there, choose your direction. Every thought you command is a brick in the foundation of your future. Every emotional reaction you withhold is a fortress wall against defeat. Every moment you remain calm, when the weak would rage, you take another step toward greatness. There is no higher intelligence than the ability to observe your thoughts without becoming them. Let me repeat this so it becomes etched into your being. There is no higher intelligence than the ability to observe your thoughts without becoming them. The man who can say, I feel anger, but I am not anger. The man who can say, I feel fear, but I am not fear. That man is free. That man is dangerous. That man is unshakable. And this is where the mind transforms into a tool of precision. When you reach this level, the level of the neutral, disciplined mind, then you can apply the next law. The principle of thought first. No act, no word, no decision should come before the mind has passed it through its furnace of clarity. You must become the kind of person who thinks before he speaks, before he moves, before he reacts. You must be governed not by impulse, but by your standard. A man without mental standards will always act beneath his potential. And the first standard must be this. Is this action aligned with my highest self, or am I simply reacting from emotion? If the answer is unclear, wait. If the answer is rooted in fear, wait. If the answer is driven by ego, wait. But if the answer is clear, noble, disciplined, aligned, then act with power. Thought must precede motion. This is how legacies are built, not from chaotic explosions of inspiration, but from consistent, conscious, deliberate effort. And effort without thought is waste, but thought without emotion is power. You are not the child of your moods. You are the master of your mission. So I say again, with fire in my words and certainty in my soul, force yourself to keep going. Even when the world forgets your name, even when your hands tremble and your voice is quiet, even when your progress is invisible and your reward is far. Because the act of moving forward in calmness, in clarity, in command, is the very proof that you are not governed by emotion. You are governed by purpose, and that makes you unstoppable. Calmness is not passivity. Calmness is command. It is not weakness. It is power restrained, sharpened, and sealed with precision. And the man who is calm in adversity is the man who cannot be defeated, not by enemies, not by setbacks, not by himself. Let me ask you plainly, when has panic ever created progress? When has fury ever produced foresight? When has chaos ever built empires? It hasn't, because it can't. The greatest builders in human history, whether they laid bricks or ideas, nations or businesses, were not driven by frenzy. They were moved by clarity, by steadiness, by deliberate, calm, directed thought. Their enemies screamed. They remained silent. Their competitors flailed. They strategized. Their world shook. They stood still, because calmness is the throne from which discipline rules. Every time you lose your temper, you hand your power to the enemy. Every time you react impulsively, you abandon the higher ground. But every time you breathe, wait, and choose your response, you reclaim your crown. Calmness is the bodyguard of wisdom. It guards the gates of dignity. It keeps your emotions in check, your mind alert, and your purpose focused. And when you practice calmness daily, even in small irritations, you become the kind of person who does not flinch under pressure. Think of this deeply. A man who is calm is a man who cannot be manipulated. You cannot guilt him because he has mastered his conscience. You cannot provoke him because he has severed the leash of reaction. You cannot tempt him because he has trained his appetite. And because you cannot move him with emotion, you cannot control him at all. That is power. So, how do you attain calmness? You attain it by making it your default. Not a mood you fall into by accident, but a state you train like a muscle. When adversity hits, your first reflex must be silence. Your second, thought. Your third, action. Reverse this order act before thought, and you have already lost. There is a process, a sacred triad, to becoming calm in all situations. 1. Awareness. You must notice when your emotions flare. Do not fight them, see them. The first victory is to catch the reaction before it spills into the world. 2. Separation. You must detach from the emotion, become the observer, not the actor. Do not identify. Say not, I am angry, but anger is present. Already you are above it. 3. Recalibration. You must choose the thought that aligns with your mission and act from that space. Discipline, not emotion, must have the final word. Master this, and your life will rise to a higher order of operation. And understand this, calmness does not mean inaction. In fact, the calmest man is often the most dangerous because he acts without noise, without delay, without hesitation. He does not waste energy on tantrums. He does not announce his next move. He does not need the world to understand him. He only needs the result. That is how kings operate. That is how visionaries move. That is how you must begin to live, as if every action came from the deep stillness of your own sovereign mind. Now we must address a concept that separates the average man from the architect of destiny, the discipline of response over reaction. Reaction is the child of emotion. Response is the child of wisdom. The difference between the two is measured in milliseconds, but it separates failure from success, regret from reward, chaos from control. A reaction is thoughtless. It is the mind on autopilot. It is the reflex of an undisciplined man, a man who is still a prisoner of his mood, his past, his ego. But a response, that is the mark of a man who rules from within. The responsive man hears the insult and remains still. He feels the temptation and chooses restraint. He senses the anxiety and returns to breath. And in that gap between the urge and the choice lies the entire secret of mastery. Let me say it again. The power to pause is the power to prevail. Most men throw away their futures in that one instant where they could have paused. One wrong word, one emotional email, one careless indulgence, one lazy hour, one moment of weakness that derails years of discipline, all because they reacted. They didn't pause. They didn't respond. You must build a wall between the spark of emotion and the flame of reaction. That wall is discipline. That wall is principle. That wall is the question, asked in silence. Does this serve my mission? If it does, proceed. If it doesn't, wait. And the beautiful truth is this. The more you choose response over reaction, the more you rewire the very nature of your brain. Your emotional mind begins to submit to your logical mind. Your chaos bows before your clarity, and your reactions shrink in power until you are no longer their puppet, but their master. This is how warriors think, not with clenched fists, but with calm decisions, not with quick words, but with chosen silence, not with urgency, but with unbreakable patience. Every time you don't react, you earn your strength. And let this be known. The path to greatness is not paved with motivation. It is paved with consistency. Consistency in thought, consistency in emotion, consistency in choice. And that consistency is only possible when you stop being a slave to the noise inside you. You must walk like a man who has nothing to prove. Speak like a man who has already decided. Move like a man who is already free. Because you are not here to dance for the world. You are here to build a world one forged from your inner silence, your outer discipline, and your daily alignment with purpose. Do not fear being misunderstood. The man of discipline is always misunderstood by the undisciplined. The man of calmness is always labeled cold by the chaotic. The man who responds is always envied by those who react. This is the price. Pay it gladly, because what you gain is beyond comparison. You gain yourself. And when a man owns himself, no one else can. Now listen carefully, for this truth belongs in the innermost vault of your mind. You cannot control the outcome of every battle, but you can control the way you enter every battle. Calm, focused, disciplined, relentless, that is your edge. You will not always win, but you will never lose yourself. And that is the foundation of a life no enemy can tear down. So once again, say it until it becomes your blood, your breath, your being. Force yourself to keep going. Not because it feels good, not because it's easy, but because this is who you are now, a man who acts, not reacts, a man who builds, not begs, a man who rises, not retreats, a man whose calmness is more powerful than other men's rage, a man who knows the truth, that nothing, not failure, not fear, not fatigue, can stop the one who has mastered himself. Discipline is not a punishment. Discipline is the highest act of love you can offer yourself, the love of your future, the love of your purpose, the love of your potential. It is not a chain, it is the sword that cuts through illusion, indulgence, and distraction. Discipline is the proof that you are no longer a child of impulse, but an architect of intention. Now listen carefully, for this will serve you in every endeavor for the rest of your life. Your results are always a mirror of your discipline. Nothing more, nothing less. Show me the man's routine, and I will show you his future. Show me how he speaks to himself in solitude, how he trains when no one watches, how he thinks when under fire, and I will show you whether he is destined to rule or remain ruled. So what is mental discipline? It is the daily training of the inner world to serve the highest ideal, not the lowest craving. It is consistency of thought, integrity of focus, precision of emotion, the ability to act without delay, resist without excuse, persist without applause. Mental discipline is not something you try, it is something you become. You do not try to wake up early. You are the man who rises before the world stirs. You do not try to finish what you start. You are the man who completes. You do not try to focus. You are the man whose mind obeys him. You have to forge your identity until it aligns with your intention. But beware, because the greatest enemy of discipline is not laziness. It is emotional inconsistency. The man who allows feelings to dictate his effort will always betray his mission. The man who bases his work on whether he feels inspired is not a professional. He is a hobbyist of potential. Understand this law. Discipline does not come from motivation. Discipline comes from identity. It begins with one simple declaration. This is who I am now. Not who I want to be, not who I hope to become, but who I am now. The man who holds that line, who wakes up with that line burning in his mind, who walks through his day with that line written behind his eyes, that man rewires reality around his character. Mental discipline is self-mastery made visible, and it must be trained like muscle. Every day, every hour, every decision. Because your brain is a creature of pattern. It does not serve your goals, it serves your habits. And until your habits align with your purpose, your dreams will remain prisoners of your inconsistencies. You must become brutally consistent, not once a week, not when it's easy, not when the world applauds, but always, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when no one is watching, especially when your lower self screams for rest. And every time you show up, especially when it hurts, you etch discipline into your soul. But be warned, the world will tempt you to negotiate with your greatness. Take it easy, it will whisper. You deserve to rest. You've done enough. No one will notice if you skip this one. But discipline does not need an audience. Discipline is what you do when no one claps. Discipline is the invisible crown of kings, worn not on the head, but in the heart. And you must wear it proudly. Now let us carve the architecture of discipline into clear, immovable pillars. 1. Thought direction. You must control where your mind goes. Do not let it wander into complaint, envy, or distraction. Direct it, train it, ask daily, is this thought moving me forward or holding me back? And if it is not building, eliminate it. You are the gatekeeper. 2. Identity anchoring. Do not wait to feel like a disciplined person. Act like one, speak like one, think like one. The mind follows the body. If you carry yourself as a man of mastery, your brain will catch up. Declare who you are, then live like it is already true. 3. Schedule sovereignty. Your time is not negotiable. Do not rent it out to distractions, drama, or dopamine. Your calendar is your constitution. If it's not on the schedule, it doesn't exist. Train at the same time. Work at the same time. Sleep at the same time. Freedom is born from structure. 4. Emotional override. Train yourself to act regardless of mood. The day you can execute at the same intensity whether you feel like it or not is the day you become untouchable. Emotion whispers. Discipline roars. Silence the whisper. Obey the roar. 5. Relentless repetition. Mastery is not found in novelty, it is found in repetition. Do the same hard things over and over. Improve by inches. Refine endlessly. Greatness is boring until it becomes beautiful. This is your structure. These are your bricks, and every day you obey them, your mind becomes a fortress no storm can break. But make no mistake, there will be storms. You will wake up some days feeling hollow. You will hear the voice of your past, begging for comfort, aching for ease. You will be tempted to slip back into softness. And in those moments, you must remember this truth. Discipline is not the suppression of desire. It is the elevation of desire. It is not about doing less. It is about choosing better. You are not denying yourself. You are defining yourself. And every act of discipline is a vote for the man you are becoming. Each time you say no to impulse, you say yes to your highest self. Each time you resist mediocrity, you build your edge. Each time you stick to the process, regardless of how it feels, you forge a reputation with yourself, and that is the only reputation that matters. Because the world may not see you rise in the dark. It may not see the early mornings, the lonely nights, the battles behind your eyes, but you will. And when your results speak, the world will be forced to listen. Remember, power is quiet, discipline is invisible, but their effects are undeniable. So stand tall, hold the line, become the man whose word is law, the man who does what he says, the man who keeps walking when others beg for rest, the man who no longer needs permission because he has claimed dominion over his mind. And if ever you should stumble, as all do not linger, do not collapse, do not rationalize weakness. Rise immediately, forgive quickly, learn fiercely, and return to the standard with twice the force. You do not have time to wallow in regret. You have work to do. And above all, repeat to yourself, even in exhaustion, even in pain, even in silence, force yourself to keep going. Because this is your edge. This is your oath. This is your way out of the ordinary and into the unshakable discipline of kings. The subconscious mind does not judge. It does not question. It does not ask whether a thought is true or false, good or bad, helpful or harmful. It simply accepts what it is told through repetition, through emotion, and through intensity of belief. This is both a terrifying truth and a liberating one. It is terrifying because if you are not consciously choosing what to impress upon your subconscious, you are being programmed by others, by society, by media, by parents, by fears, by mistakes, by old voices you should have buried long ago. It is liberating because once you take control of that process, you become the author of your own mind. Let me be clear. You are not your past programming, but you are responsible for reprogramming it. And that process begins with the language of autosuggestion. What is autosuggestion? Autosuggestion is the act of implanting specific, intentional thoughts into the subconscious mind by repeating them daily with belief, intensity, and emotion until they become part of your operating system. Every affirmation, every visualization, every decree you speak aloud or whisper in silence when done with discipline becomes a seed planted in the most fertile soil of your life, the mind beneath your mind. But most people use autosuggestion against themselves. They say, I'm not good enough. I always mess this up. I'll never succeed. I'm so unlucky. I can't help it. It's just who I am. And with every repetition, they reinforce a prison of their own making. They hypnotize themselves into mediocrity. They worship at the altar of limitation. And the subconscious, loyal and obedient, goes to work making it all come true. But the wise man, the disciplined man, does the opposite. He speaks only what serves him. He declares only what strengthens him. He affirms only what aligns with his highest potential. He does not wait for belief to arise. He creates belief through repetition, through force, through mental practice. He does not lie to himself. He instructs himself, not based on where he is, but on where he is going. You must speak as the man you are becoming, over and over, relentlessly, obsessively. This is not wishful thinking. This is intentional conditioning. It is not magical thinking. It is psychological rewiring. What you say with repetition becomes what you believe, and what you believe becomes what you act upon without resistance. The formula is clear. Thought plus repetition plus emotion equals subconscious programming. You must write your affirmations with precision. Speak them aloud with intensity. Feel them as if they are already true. Morning, noon, night, until your subconscious bends to your will and begins to operate on the assumption that they are real. Here are examples of affirmations that forge power, used by men of mastery. I act with discipline regardless of emotion. My thoughts are focused. My actions are aligned. My path is clear. I am the master of my inner world. Nothing controls me but purpose. Every day I grow stronger, calmer, and more determined. I persist when others quit. I build what others fear. I am unstoppable because I am aligned. Speak these aloud, daily, when tired, when uncertain, when victorious, when wounded, when alone, especially when alone. For the voice that you speak into yourself in silence is the one that shapes everything. Do not wait for the world to affirm you. The world responds to what you radiate, and you only radiate what you have internalized. So, internalize power, internalize calm, internalize clarity. Internalize success as already yours, and the subconscious, like a loyal servant, will move you toward it in ways you cannot predict but can always trust. And here lies one of the greatest truths ever spoken. You become what you think about, especially when the thinking is consistent, emotional, and intentional. So do not feed your mind crumbs. Feed it gold, feed it vision, feed it commands. Be as deliberate with your thoughts as you are with your food. What you feed determines what you become. Now, let us engrave into your memory the 3 pillars of effective autosuggestion. 1. Precision. Your affirmations must be specific. Do not say, I want success. Say, I am building a disciplined mind that produces consistent results. 2. Repetition. Do not repeat them once and expect change. Your old programming was written over decades. You must persist until your new script replaces the old. Say them in the morning, before sleep, during exertion. Let them become part of your breath. 3. Emotion. The subconscious responds best to feeling. You must feel what you say. You must visualize what it looks like. You must experience the affirmation in advance so your subconscious begins to believe it has already happened. This is not theory. This is practice. Practice that transforms. And as you continue this process, as you repeat and visualize and speak and affirm and feel, you will begin to notice something profound. Your behavior will start to shift without effort. Your habits will begin to align with your affirmations. Your emotions will become extensions of your declarations. Your results will mirror your internal narrative. You will become the man you told yourself you were because the subconscious always obeys its master. And if you neglect this power, know that someone else will use it on your behalf. The media, the culture, the past, the crowd, the world is always whispering suggestions. If you are not programming your mind, they are. So become the only voice that matters, and make that voice unbreakable. Because no matter how strong your outer world may appear, it is nothing compared to the invisible blueprint your subconscious follows behind the scenes. That is where your future is written not in goals, but in identity, not in effort, but in belief. So start there. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, but now, because now is when the mind is listening. Now is when you plant the seed of greatness. And once planted and watered with repetition, there is no force on this earth that can prevent that seed from growing into destiny. So when doubt knocks, when old patterns return, when fear tries to scream its old lies, You stand unwavering and declare with the certainty of a man who has reprogrammed his mind. I do not stop. I do not hesitate. I do not compromise. I force myself to keep going because I am no longer the man I was. That is the power of autosuggestion. That is how you become new. Your mind is not a storage container. It is a filter. And the quality of your life, the precision of your results, the direction of your actions is determined not by how much you think, but by how accurately you think. Accurate thinking is the discipline of aligning thought with truth, not with emotion, not with opinion, not with assumption. The average man does not think accurately. He reacts. He assumes. He memorizes other men's thoughts and calls them his own. He accepts ideas based on how they make him feel, not whether they are rooted in principle. He allows fear to masquerade as wisdom, comfort to pretend to be peace, and emotion to disguise itself as fact. And that man, no matter how hard he works, remains a drifter, sailing blindly in a sea of half-truths and contradictions. But the man who trains his mind in accuracy, he sees the world as it is. He does not cling to illusions. He does not filter facts to preserve his ego. He does not avoid hard truths because they are uncomfortable. He welcomes them because he knows. Truth, however brutal, is the only ground upon which success can stand. You must become the kind of thinker who demands proof before belief, clarity before commitment, structure before emotion. You must ask, is this true? Is this belief backed by evidence? Is this fear based in reality or in projection? Is this thought serving my mission or sabotaging it? Do not accept a thought just because it's familiar. Most of your familiar thoughts are hand-me-downs inherited from a society that does not value truth, only comfort and control. You must become a mental investigator. You must interrogate your own beliefs the way a master interrogates a diamond, not by how it looks in the moment, but by its internal structure. Let us define the two categories every thought must pass through to meet the standard of accurate thinking. 1. Inductively verified facts. Facts that are proven through observation, experience, measurement, or trustworthy evidence. These are solid. These are the bricks of reality. You may build on them. 2. Hypotheses or opinions. These are claims that may be true but are not yet verified. You may entertain them, but you must never base life decisions upon them unless you test them. Accurate thinking means you categorize every thought into one of those two, no exceptions. Every idea must be placed into the correct mental shelf. Facts are for action, opinions are for analysis. Confusing the two is the beginning of self-destruction. For example, the idea that I'm not good enough. Is that a fact, or is it a belief that arose from emotion, comparison, or failure? If it's not a fact, discard it. Do not water the weeds. The idea that it's too late for me. Fact or opinion? Are there not men who started at 40, 50, 60 and built empires? The thought dies under examination. Most of your limiting beliefs dissolve the moment you apply the fire of accurate thinking. And this fire must burn constantly. Train your mind to test everything, especially the ideas that feel safest, because the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves to stay comfortable. There are 5 habits that will sharpen your accuracy and make your thinking a weapon of unstoppable precision. 1. Eliminate emotional contamination. Feelings are real, but they are not reliable indicators of truth. When emotions rise, pause. Let the fog pass. Then think. Then decide. Never assume something is true just because it's loud inside you. 2. Identify the source. Ask, where did this belief come from? Did I create it through experience, or did someone plant it in me, a parent, a teacher, a failure, a culture? If it is not yours, you do not have to keep it. 3. Define your terms. Most people speak in generalities. I want success. What does that mean specifically? I'm anxious. About what exactly? Discipline begins with definitions. If you cannot name the enemy, you cannot defeat it. 4. Demand evidence. Every thought must submit to cross-examination. I'll fail. What proof supports that? No one supports me. Have you asked for support? Have you counted the people who do? Emotions collapse when forced to produce evidence. 5. Think in principles, not preferences. A man ruled by preference seeks what is convenient. A man ruled by principle seeks what is true. Live by principle. Stand on it. Let it govern every decision, especially the hard ones. And here is a warning. Accurate thinking will make you dangerous, because once you think clearly, you cannot be manipulated. You will not chase trends. You will not worship false idols. You will not be swayed by empty promises or petty fears. You will stand still, strong, centered while the world flails around you. You will become the man who knows, and that is power in its rarest form. So reject the soft thinking of the crowd. Reject the passive adoption of other people's beliefs. Reject the emotion-based conclusions that have sabotaged you for years. And rise like a builder holding a blueprint with your thoughts measured, filtered, tested, and true. Because the man who thinks accurately, not emotionally, is the man who builds accurately. And the man who builds accurately builds forever. Let this be your filter. Does this thought serve truth or serve fear? If fear, eliminate it. If truth, act on it. Do not hesitate. The accurate thinker moves with clarity, and clarity creates speed without chaos. So now, once more, with even deeper conviction, say it aloud, and say it like you mean it. Force yourself to keep going. Think accurately. Act precisely. Speak with power. Move with purpose. And let no illusion enter your mind without permission. Emotion is energy. It is fire. It is the spark that can either light a furnace of determination or burn down the entire house of your discipline. And the difference between destruction and drive, between chaos and command, lies in your relationship with emotion. Most men are ruled by it. A few men try to silence it, but only the rarest learn to use it. Let me make something very clear. Emotion is not your enemy. Untrained emotion is. When properly understood, emotion becomes a signal, not a sentence. It is a messenger, not a master. It tells you what's happening inside, but it does not decide what you do next. You decide. You must train your mind to respond to emotion, the same way a general responds to battlefield reports. Carefully, critically, strategically, not impulsively. Anger arises, you breathe, you observe, you ask, what truth lies beneath this fire? Then you act from clarity, not reaction. Fear creeps in, you welcome it, you investigate it, you say, what is this trying to protect me from? And then if the fear is irrational, you walk into it anyway. Sadness appears, you don't drown in it. You witness it. You allow it to speak. You let it move through you. And then you return to the mission. This is the process of mastery. Feel the emotion, understand the emotion, use the emotion, but never let the emotion use you. To master emotion is not to become a robot. It is to become a commander. It is to use emotion as fuel, but never as a steering wheel. You must never allow a temporary state to make a permanent decision. This is the law of personal ruin. Many a man has destroyed his family, his business, his destiny in a moment of undisciplined emotion. But no man has ever built a legacy on reaction. You cannot let the voice of the child within you, the scared, angry, impulsive child, dictate the life of the king you are becoming. You must upgrade the operator. And how do you begin? You begin with this daily mantra. Emotion is data, not direction. Every time you feel something rise within, do not obey it. Observe it. Listen. Translate. Ask, is this feeling helping me build my future, or is it a residue from my past? You must remember, your emotions are shaped by history, not destiny. They are echoes of childhood, trauma, repetition, and fear. If you do not master them, they will repeat your past in your future. Mastering emotion is a full-time commitment. It happens in your diet, in your sleep, in your conversations, in your internal dialogue. It is forged every time you delay gratification, every time you sit with discomfort instead of escaping it, every time you override the need to be right in favor of being wise. This is the real work, the invisible work, the work no one applauds, but everyone feels once it's done. Because emotional mastery radiates, it's felt in your presence, it's seen in your eyes, it speaks without sound. People trust you, they follow you. They feel safe around you, not because you are perfect, but because you are anchored. You become the eye of the storm still, clear, unmoved, while others spiral in confusion. And let me be honest with you, This mastery is rare. Most men never rise above their default setting. They live at the mercy of moods. One moment, inspired, the next, defeated. One moment, kind, the next, cruel. They confuse intensity for truth. They live in reaction loops. They are slaves to triggers they never stop to examine. But you must be different. You must become the one who is untouchable, not because you feel nothing, but because you've trained yourself to feel everything and still remain in control. This is the final test of self-ownership. Can you feel it all and still do what must be done? And when you answer that question with action, when you move forward through fear, when you show compassion instead of rage, when you remain silent instead of proving a point, when you endure discomfort instead of chasing escape, then you will know you are no longer ruled, you rule. So when emotion visits, and it will welcome it, but let discipline open the door, not desperation. Let purpose serve the tea, not pity. Let clarity run the conversation, not chaos. Then when the feeling has served its purpose, escort it out and return to work. Because there is still work to do. There is still you to become. There is still legacy to build. And nothing, not even your strongest emotion is worth postponing that mission. So breathe. Stand up. Look your old emotional patterns in the eye and say, not with arrogance, but with calm, clean power, I am not yours anymore. I do not serve emotion. Emotion serves me. I do not obey chaos. I walk with discipline. I do not run from the fire. I build within it. And in that moment, you cross over from ordinary to unstoppable. You become what the world needs but rarely sees, a man in full command of his inner world. And that man can build anything. So now, take this truth and brand it into your mind. Discipline over emotion, thought over impulse, vision over reaction, purpose over pain. And above all, force yourself to keep going. Inner sovereignty is the throne of the self, the true self. Not the self given to you by birth, name, or society, but the self you've built through fire, through repetition, through ruthless self-honesty and deliberate reconstruction. It is not a moment. It is not a mood. It is not a feeling. It is a state of being. You do not seek it. You earn it. You earn it the moment you decide to live by your own code and never violate it. You earn it the moment you stop outsourcing your direction to the noise of others and begin consulting only the stillness within. You earn it when you no longer beg for peace from the world because you have forged it inside yourself. You earn it when your mind obeys your vision, not your fears. You earn it when your words are aligned with your actions aligned with your principles, and your principles aligned with your purpose. This is sovereignty, complete internal authority. The world no longer pulls you, it watches you. The crowd no longer distracts you, it learns from you. The enemy no longer rattles you. He fears the silence behind your eyes. You do not rush. You do not chase. You move with certainty because you are no longer driven by reaction, but by reason. You do not hope for strength, you embody it. You do not explain your power, you radiate it. You do not seek validation, you walk as validation. This is what it means to be whole. You can lose the money, you can lose the job, you can lose the audience, the applause, the recognition, even the certainty of the path, and still remain unbroken. Because the world may shake, but the sovereign does not fall. He rebuilds. He recalibrates. Heresis. And the reason is this. He never placed his identity in the outer world. He placed it in the only place it can truly live within himself. That is your task now. Not to look the part, but to become the part. Not to chase the rewards, but to embody the discipline. Not to be seen, but to see clearly. And above all, to walk through life as if you were chosen. Not because anyone said so, but because you chose yourself. You must choose yourself now, in every moment, especially when it's hard, especially when you're tired, especially when the doubt creeps in and tries to resurrect the man you used to be. Let him stay dead. Let the old self rot, the weak self, the reactive self, the distracted self. Let him be buried beneath the weight of who you've become. Because who you are now, after all this discipline, all this silence, all this war you've waged within, is something different. You are no longer a wanderer. You are no longer a victim of thought. You are no longer looking for yourself in books, in people, in praise, in failure. You have found yourself, or more precisely, you've forged yourself. And now that you've found this level, this clarity, this intensity, this mental steel, you must protect it at all costs. Do not regress. Do not shrink. Do not beg for what you've already earned. You owe it to your future to keep going. You owe it to your past to make it worth something. You owe it to the world to show what mastery looks like. You owe it to yourself, the self who cried in silence, who worked in the dark, who rose when no one watched, to never ever stop becoming. This is not a phase, this is not a chapter, this is not a trend. This is who you are now. Not someday, not next year, not when it's easier. Now. So listen closely. Let this final decree enter your nervous system and become the law of your life. You are the sovereign of your mind, the commander of your emotions, the sculptor of your identity, the force behind your destiny, the builder of your future. And nothing can stop you now, because you do not wait. You do not complain. You do not negotiate. You do not seek comfort. You do not require proof. You do not beg for certainty. You walk, you think, you execute, you adapt, you build, you endure, and most of all, you force yourself to keep going, no matter how long the road, no matter how heavy the burden, no matter how loud the inner war, no matter how cold the silence, no matter how far the summit, you keep going, because greatness is not given. It is earned breath by breath, step by step, thought by disciplined thought. And now you know. Now you are. So walk forward. Eyes clear. Mind silent. Soul ready. Because the world is waiting, and you have already begun. Keep going.